I sat in the congregation, watching the handsome pastor as he preached so eloquently. I said to myself, this is my dream man. Handsome, rich, powerful, a great man of God. All these qualities combined are just perfect for me. After all, I am a Christian too, and I need someone who can help me grow spiritually. I even wished he could be mine. But come on, I thought, snapping back to reality and leaving my vivid imagination behind. Laughing quietly in my head, I admitted, I love to imagine nonsense sometimes. Instead, I should focus on the sermon. I was here busy thinking about the impossible. How can this man of God ever notice me in such a large congregation? The Lulu of the highest order. I tried to focus on the sermon, watching the pastor preach. But for some reason, I felt our eyes met. And then he smiled. Wait a minute. Was I mistaken? I wondered. Did this man just look at me and smile? Or was it my imagination playing tricks on me again? No, I was sure of what I saw. But come to think of it, I mused. I'm a beautiful lady now. Who would not notice me? If this was real, then I might be on my way to becoming Mommy Gio, I thought, dancing in my head. My excitement skyrocketed as I silently sang to myself, my God has done it oh, finally, finally. I resolved to try my luck after the service when it ended. I joined the long queue of people waiting for private counseling with the pastor. The line stretched endlessly, but I didn't care. I was determined to wait. I needed to confirm if what I saw back there was real or just another figment of my imagination. As I entered his office, he looked up and smiled at me. Oh my God, this man might actually be interested in me, I thought to myself. I sat down and Pastor Promise welcomed me warmly. I told him I needed prayers for my job. I was due for a promotion and I really wanted to get it. He held my hand and began to pray for me. Though I was happy, I wasn't fully concentrating on the prayers. My mind was elsewhere. I was replaying the fact that he smiled at me earlier. When he finished praying, he looked straight at me and demanded for my number. He said he wanted to personally keep in touch with me. Hmm. My heart sank with happiness. Could it be Pastor Promise might actually be interested in me? I left his office feeling happy. I could not wait to share the news with my sisters. My name is Vivian, a 28 years old single lady living with my two younger siblings, Joy and Peace, here in Lagos, Nigeria. I work as a marketing manager in a reputable firm and would not mind becoming a mommy Geo someday. But let me not digress. Back to my story. When I got home, I was ready to give Peace and Joy the full gist. Those two love gossip as much as I do. I think Pastor Promise likes me, I kept telling them, already practicing how I will work as a new pastor wife. That thought made me feel giddy inside. I could not stop thinking about everything that had happened. While the others slept, I lay awake, giggling happily. Suddenly my phone rang. It was a strange number. Who could be calling me at this time of the night, I wondered. Reluctantly picking up the call. Lo and behold, it was my Prince Charming, Pastor Promise. Why is he calling me this late? Has he seen any revelation for me? I thought, trying to remain calm. His deep, rich voice flowed through the line, and I could not help but fall for him the more. In fact, I love everything about this man. Sister Vivian, how are you? He said warmly. Good evening, Pastor Promise. I'm fine. It's an honor to receive your call. To what do I owe this pleasant surprise? I asked, trying to keep my composure. Hmm. I just called to check up on you, he replied. Ah, check up on me, Pastor. Say the truth, you like me. Of course, I only said that in my head. We chatted briefly before ending the call, but my joy lingered long after. He was everything I wanted in a man. Spiritual, physical, financial. Oh, he had this cute boyish charm. I love love. Despite all the heartbreak I've endured, I've never given up on finding true love. And this time, I felt like I was finally on the right track. We soon started talking. and became really close. Pastor Promise was such a sweet man. He took me out a couple of times, and everything was beginning to feel like a serious relationship. I was already in love, and it was clear he felt the same way about me. One day, he told me he really liked me and wanted us to court. Of course, I was all in. This had been my dream for so long. And before long, he popped the question, will you marry me? Oh my God, this has been my wish ever since I set my eyes on him. God truly answers prayers. I didn't need anyone to tell me that he was my husband. I said yes without hesitation, beaming with happiness. My family was overjoyed, and preparation for the wedding were already underway. To me, there was no need to seek further confirmation from God. Pastor Promise was obviously God's will for anyone. God has brought us together for a purpose, I kept saying, laughing happily. My mom, however, insisted I should pray about it. This my mom self, always taking things too seriously, I thought, brushing aside her concern. It is God's plan for me, I kept saying, confident that I was on the right path. Soon, the news spread throughout the church. Pastor Promise had just gotten engaged. Everyone was eager to know who the lucky woman was. Some wished it was them, while others were sad because they secretly liked Pastor Promise. A few were angry that he didn't choose them, and some ladies even left the church in frustration. But there I was, sitting in the congregation, feeling proud and victorious. Yes, I am the one who won the heart of that man over there. My man, my man of God, I thought, smiling as I watched him preach the gospel. Then the big day finally came. It was nothing short of glamorous. People of high class attended. The crowd was massive, and there was a lot to eat and drink. I couldn't stop smiling. Meet the latest Mrs. Vivian Promise, aka Mama Gio. The next day, we stepped into the church together, and congratulations came from every corner. I felt fulfilled. This was the kind of life I had always wanted. Sweet and soft. I imagined myself beside my husband on posters and billboard. My friends were so excited. They kept shouting, God when no, God when no. It was our Thanksgiving Sunday, and dressed in my beautiful attire, I danced like never before. Later, I sat down in the special seat reserved for the pastor's wife, feeling honored. After the service, more people came to greet and congratulate me. I waited patiently for my husband to finish his counseling session before finally we left for home. That evening, we arrived home tired and hungry, so I quickly went to fix us something to eat. After dinner, as we related and talked, I moved closer to my husband, hoping for some intimacy. The previous night, we were too tired, but now I was ready. However, my husband wasn't in the mood. Instead, he suddenly bursted into tongue, leaving me confused and stunned. Wait a minute. Are we not married? Are we not supposed to, do the do? I thought. Maybe he's about to receive a revelation from God. Let me hold on till later. We had our separate bedroom because he told me that sometimes he needed solitude as a man of God. Although I wasn't happy about it, I had to agree. But tonight, I wasn't going to sleep alone. Later, I went to his room, only to find the door locked. I called him, but he didn't pick up. Instead, he sent me messages saying he was busy and I shouldn't disturb him. I was heartbroken. Is this the part of sacrifice I'm expected to pay as Mommy Gio? I forced myself to sleep that night. The next morning, my husband apologized and I was happy again. But the pattern continued. Days turned into weeks and still he didn't make any move. 2 months into our marriage, nothing had happened. It was excuse after excuse. Prayers, fasting, one reason or another. I buried myself in work to keep me from losing my mind. By the 8th month, I was at my wit's end. Frustrated, I confronted him one morning, demanding to know why he has denied me one of the most beautiful privileges of marriage. I even suggested we go to the hospital to check if something was wrong with him. He shouted there was nothing wrong, but after much persuasion, he agreed. We went to see our doctor, who ran several tests and confirmed that my husband was perfectly fine. If he was perfectly fine, then what could be the problem? Was I not attractive? Am I the problem? I wondered, drowning in my pain. 2 years passed and still nothing changed. By that time, I was convinced my husband was being wicked. My family was expecting me to announce a pregnancy, and his family has also started pressurizing me. How can I get pregnant when my husband has refused to touch me? The pressure became unbearable and I started to change. I was no longer happy. My performance at work suffered and eventually I got relieved of my job. I spent my days at home crying while my relationship with Pastor Promise deteriorated. He accused me of nagging and being ungrateful, saying I should focus on enjoying God's provision instead of complaining. We were strangers at home, but perfect couple in public. For my peace, I played along. No one knew my struggles. They only saw me as a lucky woman married to an influential man. One day I couldn't take it anymore. I told my husband I wanted a divorce. He laughed wickedly and said, "It is better you die than divorce me. You are not going to ruin my reputation." I stood there, speechless. "Are you truly a man of God?" I asked, tears streaming down my face. "Why are you treating me this way? I am tired. I am exhausted." He laughed again. "I thought you loved being Mommy Gio," he said mockingly. "You love the honor and respect you get. So why are you complaining about being tired? You have no choice. You will remain in this marriage until I say otherwise." I was weak, lost in a nightmare. I could no longer understand. Pastor Promise looked at me with a cold, calculated expression. "Nobody must know what is going on in this house. If you dare, I will frustrate not just you, but your entire family," he said before storming out. I sat there, tears streaming down my face. What have I gotten myself into? God, you are watching all this happen, yet you do nothing. But then it hit me. I never truly involved God when I decided to marry Pastor Promise. I rushed headlong. What I thought was a blessing, now it's feeling like a curse. The next day, I tried to shake off the sadness. I applied for jobs, determined to occupy my mind. But then it happened. That morning, Pastor Promise beat me mercilessly because I said I was too weak to make the pounded yam and egusi soup he demanded that morning. I begged him to let me prepare something simple, promising to cook his desired meal later. But the next thing I felt was a slap across my face, followed by blows and punches. My swollen face and bruises told the story of his wrath. We were scheduled to attend a marriage seminar the next day, and I thought my appearance would excuse me from attending. But Pastor Promise insisted I came, even if I had to plaster heavy makeup over my battered face. And that's exactly what I did. At the marriage seminar, he spoke passionately about the secret to a happy marriage. The crowd cheered. I was asked to share a few words, and as I stood before them, my leg trembled. I was about to tell a grand lie. "Marriage is beautiful when you are with a bright partner," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm blessed to be married to the best man in the world." "Honey," I said, turning to my husband, "I appreciate you for all you do. You are a big blessing to me." The audience erupted in applause as my husband hugged me in front of everyone. The hypocrisy sickened me, but the applause brought joy to my husband. Later that evening, our name was on the blog again. People were praising us for a perfect marriage. My husband was happy. He even apologized for hitting me, and I nodded in silence, accepting this as my cross to bear. Friends and family called to praise me, expressing their envy for a perfect marriage. If only they knew. To distract myself, I decided to start up my own company, funded by my husband. Since I can't get genuine attention and love, at least let me spend this money well. I was working on the project, so I was super busy, leaving home early and returning late. One fateful day, I left for work but forgot an important file. I rushed back to retrieve it, only to hear strange noises coming from upstairs. Alarmed, I hurried to investigate. What I saw when I opened the door made me faint. When I got myself back, my husband was pouring water on me. "You will not speak of this to anyone," he warned. "If you do, you will regret it." I was furious. I just caught my husband in a compromising position with his assistant pastor. My husband was gay. Now everything makes sense to me now. This man is wicked though. "You must grant me a divorce," I demanded. "This is too much. I can't deal with all this. What kind of thing is this now?" He laughed. "You divorce me? Never. You're just a pawn in my game. You like the title of Mommy Gio, don't you? Play your role and keep quiet." What kind of wickedness is this? You won't perform your duty as my husband. To think the reason you have ignored me all these years was because of a man. I feel totally ashamed. Now free me. Let me live in peace. You still say no. Do you want to see me die? It is better you die than to ask for a divorce, Pastor Promise said. In a moment of rage, I grabbed a knife from the table and stabbed him. Blood dribbled and a scream jolted me back to reality. I dropped the knife, horrified by what I had done. His assistant rushed to call for help, and soon he was taken to the hospital, and I was arrested for an attempted murder. The news spread like wildfire. Pastor Promise stabbed by his wife. The internet was ablaze with gossip. My family was dragged into this chaos, and judgment poured from every corner. A lot of people were blaming and criticizing me. At that moment, the only thing I could pray for was my husband to live. My husband survived, and the investigation began. Despite being at the police custody, my husband still sent people to threaten me not to say anything stupid. But I never will be bullied. I told my family everything. My mother wept bitterly. My siblings were devastated, but they stood by me. We hired a good lawyer, and I revealed the truth to the public. Some believed, while others didn't. Days later, the assistant pastor wife had a press conference and confirmed my story. She had known about her husband's relationship with Pastor Promise but kept quiet for long. Her revelation sent shockwave throughout the church and public. Suddenly, narrative shifted. People who once criticized me started defending me. The church fell apart. People began to speak out as more of Pastor Promise crime surfaced. Fraud, money laundering, even murder. I was tried and sentenced to 2 years in prison for attempting to murder Pastor Promise. However, Pastor Promise faced the full weight of justice and was sentenced to 20 years for his numerous crimes. I just finished serving my sentence. My life feels like a blank state, and I can't help but to wonder, what next?